if it's clear from the outset what you are about, what your team is about, and what you're trying to achieve, then people can see that, and then they can decide whether they're going to join and stick with you, or they want to find alternative spaces for their kids to go, which maybe have a different philosophy, a different ideology, if you like, or different aspect or different playing systems, and they can go and find them.
And a warm welcome. You're with the Liverpool FA podcast. Our aim is to provide regular insight from a variety of experts to help you in your own grassroots football journey. We're going to do this through interviews, roundtable discussions, and by linking to other resources to help support you. For more information about each episode, just tap the album art. That will provide you with more about our guests and links to further content. Enjoy.
This is Jack Walton, and I help develop coaches and host the podcast here at Liverpool FA. Our guest today is Professor Dave Richardson from John Moores University. I've known Dave for a few years now, since we met on a coaching course he attended, and Dave's become a close ally of mine, someone I really look up to, and someone I thought that would be great to have on as our first guest. In this episode, we discuss issues within grassroots coaching, such as dealing with parents, playing time, position rotation, and we think you'll like this episode, particularly if you're a youth coach working in grassroots football. So hope you enjoy. Dave Richardson, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You are one of our first guests, and in true fashion, I've managed to almost lose my voice after playing in a tournament myself at the weekend. Right. So we'll go and dive right in. If you can explain to folks at home who you are and what you do in your own working time, and of course as a coach as well. Okay,
no problem. So my name's Dave Richardson, and I'm the Director of School for Sport and Exercise Sciences at Liverpool John Moores University. Been the Director of School for probably sort of three and a half years now. We like to see ourselves as a world leading school in sport and exercise sciences, and also a school with expertise in science and football. Yeah. In terms of my coaching background and I guess playing background, I've played to a fairly decent level as a young player, and then more recently got into the coaching, as you know, Jack, through working at Woolton with the Woolton teams there, and obviously going through the licences, getting the coach qualifications, yeah, as running a team as a consequence of my young lad and my friend's young lad who wanted to be in a team and being part of the team, and always being sort of cajoled into taking the lead role in moving that forward.
Yeah. So were you one of the dads that took his lad along and didn't step back when the request for volunteers came along? Is that how it happened?
It was more around trying to find the right place, I think, in terms of the right type of team environment, because my son, whilst he enjoyed playing, he was kicking about in the back garden, so he can show no real I guess he didn't sort of necessarily seem to want to be in a team in terms of a competitive environment. He just enjoyed kicking the ball around in the garden. So putting him into a team competitive environment around that we were looking at probably wasn't the right thing for him. So in the end, it was, being cajoled by a good friend of mine to say, well, why didn't you just, with all these skills and background and what you do, why don't you do it? And that's really where it came from, to be honest. Yeah, and
that's the main reason why I wanted to get you on this first episode, is because of that unique position that you hold, where you're practicing what you preach at the end of the day. You hold this position at the university, Director of School of Sports Science, and you're also grassroots coach for under 11s.
Right? Under 11s now. Yeah. So we've had them since they were probably the age of 7. Yeah. Right the way through. So yeah.
So we were just saying before that you've got the joy of those guys going into high school in September when you start up again next season, haven't you?
Yes, that's going to be interesting, because the main emphasis of the team was it was all the sort of Schoolgate team.
Yeah.
So most of the kids had come from the same school, and then there's a couple of other kids. So we've probably got 2 or 3 schools involved now, but so it was the school gate kids who just joined together as a group of mates who want to play football. So taking them through on a journey with well, I guess my sort of journey as well, going back into the coaching field and trying to work out what to do with them and how to create an environment that they want to enjoy playing football in.
Yeah, you said going back into coaching, and I've been meaning to ask you this. I don't know the answer. Is this the first grassroots team that you've actually coached? Because I know you've got previous coaching experiences, but
yeah, I did a bit of coaching when I was at university, and I played sort of semi-pro football, and then in the summer we'd go out to America and worked at Penn State University, and then met a few people there who was sort of leading lights in terms of the English coaching at the time. So that was a really good experience. So coaching, and that was like a bit of a camp experience, but it was more the focus was on the sort of playing and development, but it wasn't like just a sort of what they call the Buna camp type stuff. It was more of a specific soccer camp, which was based around Penn State and Penn State, one of the Big Ten universities in the States, and it was basically around their sort of development program, if you like.
If you can take us back, what age were you when you had those experiences?
So I would have been sort of 19, 20.
Yeah.
20. So when I graduated from the sports science degree, I went out to Penn State in the summer, and also coached as a varsity coach at a place called Mercyhurst near Lake Erie. So I did that for a few months. Early. I mean, in terms of coaching, I was more of a player than a coach. Yeah. I would say, and a lot of my coaching practice came from what I'd experienced as being coached, if that makes sense.
We'll revisit that definitely. I think that's how a lot of us get into coaching, is that kind of transition at the end of playing or even during playing.
Yeah.
So was that your first introduction to coaching then, that trip out to the States and the time that you spent out there?
Yeah, pretty much, in terms of being required to put on a series of sessions over a week-long period with a group of players. So there would have been, the age range would have probably been about 14, 15-year-olds. So in terms of being asked to put a programme together on a sort of daily basis, then that was probably the first time I've been asked to do that.
So if you were to look back now, almost jump in that time machine and go back and visit yourself as that coach starting out, what would be the main differences that you would see between you then and the way that you coach now?
I think I've probably got a little bit more coherency and the aim of what I'm trying to do. I think in those early years it was more to do with what constitutes a fun session. I think the kids would like to do this, and they'll have a great time.
Yeah.
As opposed to any major focus on technical development or tactical development or physical development. It was mainly around just running something that I think is going to be really enjoyable. Yeah,
I used to find that it was survival at first. Can I just get through this hour and a half unscathed? Yeah. And
we had that time. There was quite a big group of kids, and we had them for at least a week. So you'd have them in the morning, you'd have them in the afternoon, you'd have them at night time. So it was sort of 3 sessions a day for a week.
Yeah.
And when you've quite early years of coaching, you haven't got that much armoury in terms of your coaching expertise, other than what you've been experienced and what you've been exposed to. So it was a challenge. And obviously the one going into working with Mercyhurst, that was then a varsity experience. So I was involved in so I was at the women's team and the men's team. So I'd take the junior varsity, if you like, sort of the reserve teams, and then there was that was a guy with Richard Hartis, who became like a goalkeeping coach at Man United. If I'd seen, and he worked with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So yes, that was his early years of coaching as well.
Yeah.
So.
Focus that I wanted to discuss with you on this episode really was around coaching philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a popular phrase at the moment. What's your take on the way that the culture, I suppose, of football is changing, and that this term philosophy is becoming a lot more apparent and popular now?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to answer in terms of what's your coaching philosophy, or it is, as you say, a bit of a trend in terms of having to have a philosophy or having to do something in a particular way, and it's a sense of, well, what are you open to, I think, in terms of different ways of working, and whether you've got a particular philosophy, or whether you once you start to have a philosophy, you're then almost bound by it, and it leaves you little space to be flexible or to be adaptable, unless you put that into your philosophy, if that's what you want to be and what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
But it is quite trendy, I think, in terms of people are trying to come up with some form of words that captures what they are and who they think they are and how they want to be.
I'm assuming that you think it's important that coaches have this kind of view of themselves and the way that they want to be.
I think I'd always go with, going back to things like, well, why are you here in the first place? So why do you want to be a coach? What is it that you want to achieve? Because that's if we take it back, there's different reasons for us all being in this space, whether it be for personal family reasons, and you sort of get drawn into that particular environment, or whether it's more of the career aspect where you're going through grassroots into professional environments. So if we understand why we're in there in the first place, then I guess that makes it more easier to understand what the expectation is on you as well, as an individual or as a group. And I think that's really important, because then you can start to get a sense of perspective in terms of who you are, what skill set you have, and how far you can go.
At what point in your own coaching journey did you start to have these sort of thoughts? I know when I first started coaching, it was like I said, just about survival. It was put on sessions that would keep the kids entertained and be fun. And it was only, I think, maybe 10 years ago or so, I started to have these thoughts in my own head about, what do I stand for as a coach? Why am I doing this? At any point in your own pathway spring to mind?
Well, I think if I go back, a number of years, in terms of my own sports careers as a player, then there was a balance to be had between performing and education. And as I progressed through and didn't make it as a footballer, but then went into academia, and my sort of PhD work was all around the holistic understanding of the young athlete, footballers in particular, and that was really important to me in terms of the morals and ethics around play development within more so the professional environment as opposed to grassroots. And it was trying to understand from an organisational point of view what the responsibilities were of a club towards young people and young footballers in particular. So that's where I guess I come from in my own perspective of we should always be looking after the individual and the welfare of the players, whether they be looking to progress into the professional game or just looking to enjoy playing football for as long as they can. So I think that's probably where I've got more of a holistic understanding, mainly through some of the work that we've done on talent development, working with clubs and organisations around providing opportunities for young players to develop a different sense of identity, not just as a footballer but as young people. Yeah. And then obviously this now is more grassroots related, and it's getting that balance between just providing an environment where the kids want to play and enjoy playing and come back week in, week out, whether they're going to be the next superstar player or not. You just want them to enjoy playing football.
How would that translate into your own philosophy? You know, with the team that you have at the moment, you've got, you know, a squad of young boys, developing boys. How would you sort of articulate your own philosophy? Because I know you've come on the level 2 with us recently, and as part of this process, you've been completing the project of work that many coaches up and down the country have been asked to do. What were the main things that come across for you?
I think it's that sense of perspective in terms of what we're doing here. We're not, you know, it's not an academy coaching job. It's a part-time role that you want to enjoy doing. So you want to enjoy being a coach, and you know, I like to enable kids to become like technical players. So I'm a big fan of, you know, technique, but then it's technique within a chaotic environment, which is the game. So in terms of, you know, going back to that sort of word for philosophies, you know, trying to enable players to deliver and to play at a level where they're competitive and where they actually enjoy the challenge of playing. So technical ability to work on that, but within a chaotic environment, if you like, to enable them to understand that there are so many different decisions, there are so many different actions and forms of information and communication that they need to absorb and understand before they can play, and trying to create an environment where allowing that without allowing for success to occur as well. So getting that balance between, you know, challenge and success is critical. You know, but so technical players who want to play, want to make a difference in the game, impact the game, but are fundamentally going to enjoy being part of the group, part of the team, and be able to succeed in achieving what they can achieve.
Yeah. And having watched you work with your players and work with them myself, I can certainly vouch for that. How would you say that kind of aim that you've got for the players and how they're able to deal with the game, how does that translate into the sort of practice and a typical practice session or program that you use with the boys?
I think we try to encourage more game-like activity, but I'm a great believer in asking questions of the boys in terms of, you know, what can they do, how can they do things better, how can we change the scope or nature of the training environment to make it more game-like, and we can build on. So you can either build up through your coaching session, or you can break things down and start with more chaos and then break it down into more simplified versions to enable success and then build it back up again.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is also about ensuring that the players understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and that they can then ultimately make decisions for themselves without me or anybody else imposing decisions upon them.
Yeah, I suppose it's a little bit like us as a coach, you know, not just literally delivering off a playbook or a script. It's actually understanding why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, they're going through the, you know, if you track it back to so early years coaching, then you were pretty, you know, you like the security of having your session and your session plans, and you know, as you were saying earlier, it's that you just want to get through, and yeah, there's a little bit of flexibility and adaptability with that. But I think going through the coaching badges again now and having that confidence to just enable or allow the sessions to just evolve and not being overly prescriptive in terms of what should be happening, and not sticking to a script if it's not working, then just being adaptable and evolving, but, you know, constantly asking the players what they think they should be doing, where they think they should be on a pitch, what type of positions that they think they've got good cover, or, you know, they've got good attacking options, and just talking to them about it.
You've just cast me back to a time I was mentoring a coach several years ago now, and he asked me if I could have a look at his session plan for his under-7s, and I think he might have been an IT engineer. But he sent me a session plan which was done on a spreadsheet, and it was about 200 cells long, planned literally to the second. It was 0 to 30 seconds, right? We're going to introduce the topic, we'll sit them down, and it reminded me of that actually and I've obviously seen the way that you plan and the detail that you go into. But I find nowadays that I'll probably only deliver maybe 50% of what's on the plan.
Yeah.
And the other 50% is entirely dependent on what's going on that evening. Not many of us have got the luxury to know exactly how many players are going to turn up. You know, we're working within a range, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's having that confidence to be able to just deliver and adapt your session accordingly. Because some days the kids turn up and you've got something in your head that you want to work on, but within the first 5-10 minutes you know it's just not going to happen because of the way they are with each other, or you know, something's happened at school, or you know, something's gone on and there's a little bit of a different type of vibe going on with the players, so you're not going to achieve what you thought you're going to achieve. So you have to break it down and again just build little bits of it and go from there, but not be worried about it as well. I mean, I think again sometimes we can get a little bit too caught up and too much of a hostage to what you've planned and trying to achieve it, where you know it's grassroots coaching. It's making, as long as the kids have a really enjoyable experience and they're progressing and they're developing, then you can do it next week or the week after. You know, it doesn't matter.
If you were to advise maybe a coach who they might see their players for an hour a week, they might have their players for one game at a weekend. If they were curious about starting to develop or formalise their own coaching philosophy, what sort of advice might you give them?
I think I'd go back to that, starting with why you're there and what you want to achieve, and the sense of perspective with the type of kids that you've got, because we haven't all got a group of world leading excellent players in front of us that you want to turn into the next sort of Messi and Suarez or Ronaldo. Your role is to just provide them with a platform and environment to be able to experiment and be challenged and to enjoy. So it is about, each individual will have their own perspective on what they want to achieve. So it's having and be quite critical, I think, in terms of that sense of self and what it is that you're there for, and remembering that it is, you are doing it because it's typically at this level it's volunteerism, and you need to enjoy it as well. The number of times you speak to coaches and they're just stressed up to the hilt because of their parents are getting on their back, or they've fallen out with some of the kids, or some of the kids have fallen out with each other, and then you start to say, well, wonder why you're in it in the first place, and it's difficult because those things are really challenging for coaches because those are things you don't, we'll probably talk about them on the level 2, but in terms of a skill set to be able to deal with parents who are nagging you and for game time their kids, or kids within the group have developed a little bit of a clique, and you try to work hard how to break it all down. But if you're not enjoying it as a coach, then it becomes really almost like a bit of a toil, and then that with them cascades, it will pass on to the players. Your coaching sessions will reflect that extra toil you've had to put in, and whether you're thinking it's actually worthwhile doing.
I think you've hit the nail there. And what I find in my own experiences of working with many coaches is the ones who seem to have the more clarity about their own values, beliefs and behaviours, and more of a kind of holistic view of their own coaching philosophy, the less stress that they get, the happier that they seem. They're able to be, because they have that clarity, they've got those principles that guide them. They're able to deal with the parents, and actually I think the knock-on effect is that the coach who has that clarity and they're able to articulate it comes across quite clearly with the parents, and even the kids can see and feel the consistency of the message.
Yeah. And I think it's if you're clear with that, then you're able to accept that there are going to be certain players and certain parents that actually maybe don't fit with you or with your team, and you have to be prepared to let them people go, or have those conversations. And if it's clear from the outset what you are about, what your team is about, and what you're trying to achieve, then the people can see that, and then they can decide whether they're going to join and stick with you, or they want to find alternative spaces for their kids to go, which may have a different philosophy, a different ideology, if you like, or different aspect or different playing systems, and they can go and find them, and you can't take it personally because you've just set up, you've done this, and again you're not an academy coach, you're just someone who's looking to help provide kids with an opportunity to play football.
I remember a game, thinking back a few years now, we had I think we were under 10s at the time, under 11s maybe, and we were the boys that I coach, they know they pretty much get equal time to the minute. I'll try and work it out until one of them gets injured and has to come off, and then it throws the whole equal time. But certainly over a season, they'll all experience equal time and a mix of different positions. And there was one game in particular where we were 3-0 up against the team we shouldn't have been 3-0 up against, and the boys came off at half time absolutely buzzing. Bear in mind the other team could have scored about 3 goals in that first half anyway. So at half-time team talk, I said to the boys, look, do you want to keep it the same? Do you want to change anything? What do you think we do? And their immediate response was, go for more goals. We want to get more goals. I said, okay, all right. Your decision. So the captain decided on the formation and the subs that were going to be made, and you can tell what's going to happen here. We lost the game 7-3, and all the boys still got the same amount of time on the pitch. But that day or that weekend, I experienced something that I'd never experienced before, where one of the parents said, this isn't for me. My boy shouldn't have been playing in that position. He should have been playing up front, and I'm taking him away. And it really, that stung at the time. But it was a valuable lesson because it actually reminded me of why I'm doing this and what I'm in it for. I don't know if there's been any times in your own coaching journey where your own philosophy and beliefs have been put to the test in a practical environment.
I think they always are. I mean, very early on, it was that was the similar policy, I guess, if you like, or this is the way we're going to go about it. It's we're looking to give players as much time as we can. It's equal time. So there's a rotation policy. I'm a big believer in positional rotation as well, and I don't think players should be pigeonholed in as right backs or centre forwards or left wingers from the age of 6 and 7. So you need to provide them with an opportunity to play in different positions and be challenged in those positions. And so we've had parents that challenge that philosophy, that their kids they're a left winger and they should be playing left wing every week, and they're only 7 or 8. So it just doesn't fit with me. It might fit with other people or other coaches who want to have a fixed way of playing, fixed formations, and they have fixed players who play in positions and they know those positions. But you put them in another environment, they are less likely to be able to adapt to the different aspects of game intelligence and game understanding. So we've got a pretty solid group of players. Most of them have stayed with us because we've played that out very, very, very early on in my tenure as a coach, if you like. But we have had people walk away because of that. And then you sort of ask yourself, well, is that the right thing to do? And I think it is. That's how I would want. I wouldn't want to do it any other way. But I'm still friendly with the guys that have left and they've gone to other teams, and and they still play left wing. So, but that's it. But I think you have to, and then I think it's always about thinking about the players. So if your son or daughter is playing every week, and they're playing a full game every week at the expense of somebody else's son or daughter, that is only playing 5 or 10 minutes at the end of a game when the team's 5 or 6-0 up, then you've got to ask yourself, is that right? Is that the right thing to do? And that doesn't sit with me. It doesn't work. It's about being equal and giving them equal opportunities, and putting yourself in the shoes of the other parent whose kids are coming to training. Their mums and dads are dropping them off, or their carers are dropping them off, or bringing them there, making that sacrifice to get to training, and then they're only getting 5 minutes of a weekend. It's just you can't. I don't think you can do that. You've got to give them all the chance to enjoy playing, and yet you've got to find that balance between what puts a smile on the kids' faces, and we all have to have that. That's the dilemma that we all face as a coach. Is that what will ultimately put a smile on all the kids' faces? Is it the win? Is you try and talk about we want to try to win, and the fundamentals of trying to win every week and to try and do best. But then there are some times when the only thing that will put a smile on their face is if they actually win. But once the game's finished and you talk to them, and within 30 seconds, a minute of having that, they're back. So it's trying to get how do you get that balance? And you do want them to be competitive, and you do want them to be competitive with similar, that sort of meaningful competitiveness, if you like. So they don't always have to win. You want them always to try to win.
Yeah.
But there are some times when sometimes they need a win to just get the smiles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you've got to get that balance right. And that's probably the hardest thing to do, isn't it? It's like, how do you ensure you do that consistently over the season? And we have to make some difficult decisions, and it could be bringing players on, rotating them, taking them off. It's trying to be consistent and being fair, or be trying to be fair. I mean, again, if you can't always. I know your stuff is meticulously managed in terms of game time and things, and do you share your game time spreadsheet with all your parents? Well, look, everyone's played 350 minutes, and it's all been fair and equitable. And I think as long as you're trying to do that, parents know that you're trying to do that, then you probably keep them on side.
I'm yet to meet many coaches who don't have the best intentions at heart. I think most coaches that I come across, they genuinely want to do well for the kids or the players that they work with, and sometimes it's those actions that can be a little bit misinformed or misguided and done without any malice. But I think when you pick up on something that you said there, is just actually listening to the kids and questioning why you're doing what you're doing, and understanding that every decision that you make as a coach has a trade-off somewhere. You mentioned about the position rotation. I remember one of the coaches who had the biggest impact on me as a coach, he kind of likened it to an education. So if you're going to develop a well-rounded player, or if you were going to develop a well-rounded student, they wouldn't just study one subject from the age of 6. It's important for them to discover a range of subjects, because at 6 years old they might not know what their favourite subject's going to be by the time they're 18 or beyond. And they certainly wouldn't sit out of the classroom until the last 5 minutes of the lesson, would they?
No. And I think that's important in terms of giving the players the opportunity to experience different positions. And we know that from developmentally anyway. It's about the fundamental movement skills and being in different parts of the pitch and parts of the field and playing different sports gives you different experiences which can translate and help you to understand what you're doing at any given time. So you're not really being fair on the kids if you just stick them in the same position. They're not learning. They're learning to play one position very well, but they're not learning how to play the game in a more holistic way. And as you say, they may end up moving from the right hand side to the middle to the left hand side, and right predominant of right footed players can play on the left. It's just that maybe they haven't been used to playing over there. They don't know what range of options are available to them because they haven't actually played there. You restrict the number of left-footed players who play in the middle because you've only got a certain number of left-footed players, so they don't get an opportunity to play in other positions because they're always playing on the left because you're getting the balance. But left-footed midfielders to play in the middle or at the back, or on the right, give them a sense of a different experience, different body shapes, different channels to work into, different turns to make, different perspectives, different pictures that they're going to see on the pitch, and they can absorb all those things, and they will become more accustomed to playing in different positions, ultimately become better players and enjoy the experience more.
Yeah, and I suppose you said about that, the players that are able to solve those problems, that's the sort of player that you want. I suppose by limiting them, you're limiting the amount of problems that they're exposed to.
I think again, from a coaching perspective, it's asking the players, and the difficulty and the challenge of asking them rather than telling them, and that's and heat of the moment stuff, particularly in games, that you see that there's a particular situation going to emerge because of your experience, your understanding of the game, yet the players in front of you may not have seen it, so you've got to try to get a sense of asking the players what they think their position is, whether they think they've got things covered, whether they think they've got the balance right, as opposed to the instructional. But the instructional process will probably solve the problem in the immediate moment, but it won't allow the kids to have that level of empowerment to make a decision for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult situation from a coaching perspective, because if it's 0-0 in the last few minutes and there's a gap opening up in the middle of the defence, you can fill it by telling somebody to drop in, but you really want your players to fill it themselves, or somebody to take responsibility to get it filled, to see that there's something going on and we can cover it. So trying not to interfere at that point is one of the most difficult things of the pitch side coaching.
Yeah, I know we were talking before, and I had the same situation with the boys that I coached recently, where we were 0-0 with a couple of minutes to go, and the boys were comfortably managing the game out for a draw, and there's me encouraging them to go and play quickly on the sideline, and we go and concede a last minute winner from a quick free kick. But I spoke to the boys afterwards and just had that honest conversation. I said, look, that was my fault, wasn't it? And they honestly said, yeah, it was, and we would have taken that. Yeah,
but I think the important thing with me is the kids are, the players are participating in decision making. So that's they're making decisions. So even in your half-time team talk, it's asking them, what do you think is happening? What do you think is going on? How can we change things? Do we need to change things? As opposed to you as a coach imposing change or structures upon them. They need some guidance. Clever questioning, I think, is probably as a skill as a coach, is to try to get them to understand and think for themselves. Because once they're the ones that are on the pitch, they're the ones that need to make decisions.
Yeah. Going back full circle, then, for that coach that might want to develop their own philosophy and way of thinking to be more of a one that is player centred, then looking into the art of questioning and the types of questioning, for what reason, might not be a bad starter.
I think because it's probably one of the most difficult things to do, because your natural instinct is to tell somebody what to do, but we know from a learning perspective that's not going to help them make that decision in the future, because they haven't really learned anything. You've told them what to do. So if that situation comes up in the future and you're not able to tell them what to do, or somebody else isn't able to tell them what to do, then they're unlikely to have learned from the experience. And I mean, you can talk about the experience afterwards, and you can ask them, what else do you think you could have done? What happened in that situation? Is there anything we could have done as a team or an individual to have stopped that, or prevented that, or done something about it? And then you have the discussion. But it's natural, because even if you go on the sidelines and it's people are shouting and they're shouting things, get back, get on side, get goal side. throw it down the line. These are just natural in things that people just come out with, which are telling them, are instructional. They're telling players what to do as opposed to, you know, letting them make a decision, or, you know, asking them where are your options, who's providing an option, who's providing an opportunity to play. Can you play in a different way? Can you play around? Can you play forward? Can you play backward? And getting them to think themselves about doing it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, we're almost out of time, Dave, so I just want to kind of wrap this up.
Okay.
We put out on Twitter when this concept and this idea of this podcast first started that, you know, what sort of questions would coaches out there like to ask the experts?
Yeah.
They can be one-word answers, or you can go into as much detail as you want. But one of the questions that come in was, what have you read or seen recently that's had an impact on your thinking or your coaching?
I think, reading-wise, it's probably more the academic stuff around, you know, creating the right environment for young talent development type stuff. So things like Christoph Henriksen, that type of stuff. You know, reading things like the Daniel Coyle, the Talent Code, and, you know, just reading some of those things. But I think the most pertinent thing I've seen recently was on the Twitter, which was the picture of Messi and Suarez, who was sat watching their boys being coached by somebody else, and I think that was retweeted a few times because they just looked very relaxed. They didn't look like they were going to be interfering. You know, two of the best players in the world sat together having a chat and a conversation, enjoying watching their boys being coached. You know, and that was great. You know, as a really good message to be sent out, that we can all do that, and all, if parents can do that, coaches can do that, enjoy watching the kids play. So yeah, I think that's probably the most pertinent thing I've seen recently. Brilliant.
I think that's a good place to end it. If people want to find out more about you or your work, Dave, where would they look?
The John Moore's website, School of Sport and Exercise Sciences.
Yeah, LJMU.ac.uk.
LJMU.ac.uk. Yeah, there's profiles around. We've got a lot of the work that we do in football through the Football Exchange. So there's a lot of staff profiles on there. There's a few staff who are on Twitter. We do have a Football Exchange Twitter feed. Yeah,
do you know the name of it? Or
at LJMU Football.
At LJMU Football. Yeah, good. Brilliant. Well, Dave, thanks very much for being our first podcast guest.
Pleasure. Thanks, Jack.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please help spread the word or leave us a review on iTunes. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. You can reach me on Twitter at JackWalton1. And don't forget to follow Liverpool FA at Liverpool_CFA. See you next time.